Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still exactly playing out the bullish divergence as expected. But what is really helping the price of Bitcoin right now in the short term is the US stock market bouncing from oversold territories, and also one of the largest Bitcoin whales in the world just buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But in the short term, Bitcoin is now starting to run into very important resistance, which we need to pay attention to, while the price of Ethereum is continuing the bounce from this important Fibonacci level, while the price of Solana is still exactly playing out this bullish divergence, while the price of Chainlink is getting extremely close to breaking out above critical resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to take a quick look at the US stock market. This is the S&P 500 index on the daily time frame. And right now, and really for around 1 week, give or take, we have currently been bouncing from oversold territories here on the daily time frame. And if we're looking at the last time the daily RSI got extremely close to oversold territories, of course, we also saw a decent bounce over the next few days and even over the next 1 to 2 weeks in the S&P 500 index. And in case you're new to all of this, the reason why I'm talking about the US stock market on a crypto channel is because usually the crypto market is highly correlated to the US stock market. So of course it's not a perfect correlation, but if the stock market flips bullish, it is quite likely crypto will flip a bit more bullish in the short term, and vice versa. If the stock market is dumping, usually that is bearish for crypto. And so just keep this in mind. On top of all of the other charts and the news that I talk about in this video, just keep in mind the US stock market, at least in the short term, is flipping a little bit more bullish here, which is bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. And with that being said, taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, of course, Michael Saylor, a matter of hours ago, officially just announced that MicroStrategy, well, actually is known as Strategy now, but previously known as MicroStrategy, has acquired more Bitcoin. They've just bought more Bitcoin. And in this latest Bitcoin purchase by Strategy, they've just bought another almost 7,000 Bitcoin for over $500 million US, around $584 million worth of Bitcoin, which they actually bought at approximately $84,500 per Bitcoin. And so potentially part of this pump right here was indeed MicroStrategy or Strategy actually buying Bitcoin. So they potentially helped the price of Bitcoin, at least in the short term, as they were buying over $500 million worth of Bitcoin. And so in case you're wondering, Strategy, the company, once again previously known as MicroStrategy, now holds over 506,000 Bitcoin, which they acquired for around $33 to $34 billion, which is currently worth a lot more than just that. And so just keep this in mind as well. While a lot of retail investors, a lot of smaller traders out there basically panic with some short-term bearish price action, and if they leave crypto, they just sell their crypto holdings at the lows after we see bearish price action, it's the large traders out there, the large investors out there, the billionaires, the institutions that are accumulating your cheap crypto at cheaper prices when you panic sell. And so the big money out there, the institutions, once again, the big Bitcoin whales, are continuing to buy more and more Bitcoin basically whenever they can, whether Bitcoin's pumping or dumping. MicroStrategy or Strategy, once again, is continuing to buy more Bitcoin. But with that being said, taking a quick look at this 4-day Bitcoin price chart, and technically speaking, the super trend indicator is still currently sitting in the red, so not much has changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we have seen at least one decent change over the last 1 day in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, because ever since we just saw the latest weekly candle close confirm, we are now officially starting to reduce the size of the histogram here, basically heading towards the neutral points, towards zero in the histogram within the MACD indicator. And obviously this is exactly what I've been talking about pretty much every day over the last 1 week, give or take, here on this channel. When I'm talking about this chart right here, you can even go back on my channel and watch basically any video of mine over the last 1 week, give or take. And I've been saying, expect potentially a low point starting to form in the coming days and weeks in the histogram within the MACD indicator on the weekly time frame. And so like I've been saying every day for around a week, this is likely going to tell us and is about to confirm potentially the worst is already behind us. So not necessarily meaning we're about to flip massively bullish again straight away, but basically we've already seen the maximum amount of bearish momentum within the bearish movement. Once again, that's exactly what I've been saying every day for around a week now, and I've been comparing it to this point on the price chart around July 2024, for example, because back then we had already seen most of the bearish price action from that previous high right here down to the correction, the swing low, and it was at that point where the MACD indicated we had already seen the maximum amount of bearish momentum within this bearish movement, but not necessarily flipping massively bullish again straight away. It was still around 1 or 2 months later, a couple of months later, before we finally started to flip much more bullish again. And then in this previous example, we did see that maximum bearish momentum around that low that we saw around the beginning of September 2023. And what came next was a bit of a short-term bullish relief, followed by finally the price flipping much more bullish again, roughly a month later. And so even though we are now seeing that new signal officially flash just over the last 1 day in this Bitcoin indicator on this time frame, even though this is something new that is appearing on this price chart, obviously I've already been preparing you that this is likely going to happen, and I've been saying that every day for around a week. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at this Bitcoin price chart on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, we still have a massive bearish divergence which we need to pay attention to, because at least for now we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate this bearish divergence. And so like I've been saying since pretty much the all-time high when the price was well above $100,000, this is telling us we should not necessarily expect any significant bullish momentum anytime soon. So of course we can see some short-term bullish price action, short-term bullish reliefs and things like that, bounces from support, things like that in the short term, but not necessarily massive momentum towards the upside like what we saw back here, for example. And so that is the current situation on this weekly time frame here on these two charts right here, telling us potentially the worst is already behind us, but don't necessarily expect a massive bullish move straight away. And if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on B2Next, so I'll make sure to leave a link to B2Next below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, by the way, I'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive bonuses that are only available using that link. And so as you can see here, you can claim some bonuses like, for example, $100 worth of crypto onto your B2Next account just by trading crypto each day, having a streak here. And if you're one of these larger crypto traders, you can actually get up to a $23,000 bonus onto your B2Next account. Or if you're a motorbike rider, you can get a BMW S1000R motorbike. And there's also other massive trading rewards here like a Rolex or a MacBook or a new iPhone or even a holiday to Dubai. And once again, all of this is completely on the house. Basically, B2Next pays for all of this if you simply just trade crypto using the link below this video. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, B2Next is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want B2Next as an exchange, there's also Tubit as another option out there, another exchange that I also use. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Tubit below this video as well. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is currently testing this 38.2% Fibonacci level of resistance, sitting at close to 88,000. And if we can finally see a confirmed daily candle close above 88,000 and ideally holding that as new support, then in that situation, the next price target towards the upside, the next major point of resistance would be this retracement level of resistance, the 50% retracement level sitting at around 91 to 92K, but it's actually closer towards that 92K level than 91K. And if we can finally see a breakout back above 92K approximately, then in that case, the next resistance is sitting at close to 96,000 based on these Fibonacci levels. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart based on the volume profile indicator here, and also based on previous price action, we have a lot of support in between around 70,000 to 70,000 74,000 and a decent amount of resistance in between 86,000 to 88,000, which we have rejected from over the last 1 week approximately, but we are potentially starting to break out right now. We're on the very edge of a possible breakout above 88,000, which still needs to be confirmed. And if we can finally break out above this resistance, like I just said earlier, above approximately 88,000, in that case, the next price target will be at close to 92,000, around 91 to 92,000. And above that level, the next price target will be sitting at close to 96,000 based on a lot of traded volume in this volume profile indicator. And so those are some of the important support and resistance levels that I'm paying attention to, as I've already been saying for days now on the channel. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, like I've been saying every day for almost 2 weeks now, we have an active bullish divergence, which is obviously playing out, as I've been saying once again, which means we're most likely going to see a slight bullish relief in the short term, or at the very least a bit of choppy sideways price action. So basically a break or a relief in the short term from all of the bearish price action. And so obviously this is still perfectly playing out exactly as I've been saying, and considering we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate the bullish divergence, at least for now, I do continue to expect this bullish divergence to continue to play out. But as always, we cannot ignore resistance. We can potentially struggle around some of these points on the price chart. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, at least as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is starting to run into this ascending line of resistance based on this ascending parallel channel, which is sitting at just above 88,000, close towards around 89,000 now. And so basically in the high 88K area, just underneath 89,000, we do have a decent amount of resistance, at least in the short term, around that level based on this line of resistance where we've previously seen multiple rejections from. And obviously, as I've already been saying for quite some time now on the channel, at least in the short term, technically this is a short-term bullish trend, this ascending parallel channel, considering at least on this time frame, we are forming higher lows and higher highs, which is technically a bullish trend. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we still have a lot of liquidity sitting in between around 71,000 to 74,000, but we also have a lot of liquidity at around 100,000 and also some short-term liquidity at close to 90,000. And obviously over the last 1 day, we also took out a small amount of liquidity that was sitting at around 87 to 88,000. So of course, usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's liquidity, especially if it's close to the price. So that's the current situation based on this Bitcoin liquidation heat map. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, despite seeing short-term bounces, the larger trend for Ethereum, the larger price structure for Ethereum on the weekly time frame is technically still bearish. Because for example, if we're looking at the highs and the lows, we are currently forming lower highs and lower lows. The lower lows is an important part. And also we've seen a major breakdown below a multi-year line of support and a major breakdown below a very important horizontal level on the price chart, which was significant support right here and also previous significant resistance. And so unless we could see a decent breakout actually confirm on the weekly time frame above at least that level right there, close to 2.2K, but ideally some of these other levels like around 2.6 to 2.7K start to form higher lows and things like that. At least as of right now, until we start to see some of those signals form, we are currently looking more bearish than bullish, at least on the larger timeframes. But for the beginners out there, it is important to understand the difference between the different timeframes. So when I'm saying the price structure is bearish on the weekly time frame, that does not mean expect bearish price action tomorrow. Once again, we can see some short-term bullish price action play out during a larger bearish trend or a larger bearish price structure, just like how during this previous significant bullish price structure, obviously during this period in the market in between around mid-2022 to around mid-2024, the price of Ethereum was trending in the bullish direction on the weekly time frame. But during that time period, obviously we saw quite a lot of short-term bearish price action during the larger bullish price structure. And so at least as of right now, that is still the situation on the larger timeframes. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, we are still currently playing out a short-term bounce from this Fibonacci level of support sitting at around 1870 to 1880. So like I've been saying, ever since we actually saw that bounce, and even before we saw that bounce, expect a lot of support in that high 1.8k area just below 1.9k. And we're actually now heading closer towards this major area of resistance based on previous significant support now flipping into new resistance, and that's sitting in between around 2150 to 2.2k, but really in between around 2.1k to 2.2k. That's the area that I'll be focusing on when it comes to resistance. And for the bulls out there, we need to actually see a confirmed breakout at least above 2.2k and actually hold that as support before we can finally start to flip much more bullish again in terms of the shorter term trend and momentum. Because for now, while the price is still below the golden pocket, below around 2.1 to 2.2k, technically speaking, there's still the possibility we could reject from that area, which means there's still the possibility we are within this bearish movement here. Like what we saw just here, obviously, we can see a bounce from support, but also reject from resistance. And so that's why we need to wait for some confirmation here, but at least in the immediate short term, once again, we're still playing out that bounce as of right now. And as I always say, Ethereum, along with a lot of the major altcoins out there, will likely follow similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin is playing out a bit of a bounce in the short term, expect something similar for a lot of the major altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, we're basically seeing the exact same thing for Solana as what I just said for Ethereum. Technically speaking, the larger price structure is not looking too good, considering at least as of right now, this massive rising wedge pattern is still currently active. But obviously over the last few weeks, for almost a month now, we've been running into and actually bouncing from this very significant area of support sitting in between around 120 to 130. And so not a lot has changed on this chart over the last one day, but if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, of course, we're still currently playing out the bullish divergence on the daily Solana chart. So at least for now, we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate the bullish divergence, which means obviously it's still currently active. And so once again, as I've been saying pretty much every day for almost 2 weeks now, since all the way back down here, we should be expecting a slight bullish relief or at least a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes from a bullish divergence. So basically a break or a relief from all of this bearish price action. And as for potential points of resistance to watch out for, I'll be focusing on around 148, give or take, based on these highs right here, potentially acting as a bit of resistance in that high 140 range, just below 150. And if we could break out above ideally 150 with confirmation, in that situation, we could potentially see a relief all the way up towards approximately 170 as the next major point of resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking, despite seeing short-term bounces, the larger bearish divergence, at least for now, is still currently active here on the 3-day chart, as I've been saying pretty much every day for months now on the channel since much higher prices. And so once again, this means that we should not necessarily expect a significant amount of bullish momentum towards the upside like what we saw back here, for example, around November 2024. But of course, we can see some short-term bullish price action, just not massive momentum towards the upside. That would be unlikely based on this bearish divergence. So far, that's still playing out as I've been saying for months now. But if we're zooming into the shorter term on that 8-hour time frame, we are still basically just bouncing around sideways between a sideways price range in between support and resistance, as I've also been saying recently here on the channel. So of course, we have support in between around $2.24 to $2.30, and more support in between $1.95 to $2.05. And as for resistance, we have some resistance at around $2.59 based on this latest high, but mainly in between around $2.65 to $2.80 based on this previous price action, and also more resistance at around $3. But ultimately, at least in the shorter term, the price of XRP is honestly looking quite neutral because we're simply lacking momentum to either direction. Obviously, when we're seeing the bearish price action and also the bullish price action, we're not really seeing a lot of follow through to either direction. We're basically just bouncing around sideways. And so at least for now, just in the short term, that is still the current situation for the the price of XRP. Unfortunately, it is relatively boring price action, but believe it or not, you can still profit quite a lot and very easily from choppy sideways price action just like this. And if you want to know how to do that, then stick around to the end of this video to find out more. But just before getting into that, taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, and right now Chainlink is technically still playing out this bullish divergence like I've been saying every day for over a week, and we're now actually retesting. We're seeing another test of this area of resistance, this previous golden pocket area of support now acting as new resistance, and that's mainly sitting in between around 1490 to 1550. And a few days ago, we already saw one confirmed rejection from that area. So of course, that also proved this as resistance, which means the price can still potentially struggle from within this area. But if we can finally see a confirmed breakout with at least a daily candle close confirming above 1550 and ideally holding that as new support, in that situation, at least in the short term, that will be the first step of a possible bullish trend reversal. That'll be a very bullish signal, at least in the short term. And the next major price target, the next point of resistance, if we can finally confirm a breakout above 1550, would be sitting at around 1750. And I've also been mentioning recently here on the channel that there's the possibility that an inverse head and shoulders pattern is currently forming for the price of Chainlink, but obviously we still have a long way to go before potentially confirming that. First of all, we need to see the breakout above 1550, and then it would actually need to reject from around 1750 to 1760, retest the golden pocket again, bounce, and then break out towards the upside. So once again, still a long way to go, but that's just a possible price pattern that's currently forming. And as always, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto for yourself, no matter what the price is doing, whether it's bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.